Welcome to Quilt Blocks on American Barns. I'm Eleanor Burns. Well, join me as we travel through the countryside looking for quilt blocks painted on barns. Well, in the distance, you may spot this one called Cups and Saucers. Well, the Kansas City Star printed this pattern in 1936. It's a charming combination of piece squares and flying geese. Well, those are two techniques we'll learn today. The second block to search for is called Quatrefoil. Now, it's stunning in only 3 fabrics: green, yellow, and background. Nancy Cabot, which was the pen name for Loretta Littner Rising of the Chicago Tribune, named this quilt block in the 1930s, so it's an old one. Well, in the dictionary, Quatrefoil is a stylized representation of a flower with 4 petals. Now that sounds like a 4-leaf clover to me. And 4-leaf clovers are very lucky. Well, Amy quilted 4-leaf clovers in the white background. And this cow, he certainly looks lucky, just chomping away in the clover. Well, along the border are more cows. And on the back, even more cows. So much fun. Well, a common saying is to be in the clover, meaning to live a carefree life of ease, comfort, or prosperity. Now, this stems from the historical use of clover as a green manure planted after a harvesting of a crop. Now, a farmer whose fields were in the clover was finished for the season. So let's just see how lucky we are and get our blocks done. When Sue and I visited Shipshewana, Indiana, we spotted a mural of cows painted on the side of a barn. Well, they were so cute. They made us laugh. I think they're pretty lucky living in Indiana. Well, this is the patch that we're going to start out with. This is called the Flying Geese patch. This is the pointed part, which we're going to do in green, and then the background. Well, we have so many different sizes of geese on rulers. We have 9 different sizes of geese. The particular size that we're going to work with today is our 2x4 finished geese for our 12-inch block. And look at this, a 1x2 in the red for the 6-inch blocks. Perfect. Let me just grab this one out. You start out with 2 squares to make 4 blocks. The background is on the bottom. It's 7 inches square. And then just take the top one, the green. It is 5.5 inches square. Center it right on there. Now I like to check out and make sure I'm centered on the square. So take the 45-degree line on your ruler and place your ruler so that if it goes corner to corner through each one of those, it's perfectly centered. Once you know it's centered, just draw a diagonal line corner to corner. It's ready for sewing. It's 1/4 inch away. Put a 1/4 inch foot on your sewing machine. I have this bar that all I do is just drop it right on the line, and then when I stitch, my seam is 1/4 inch away. And this time we only need to do 1 set of blocks, no assembly line sewing, just get it going right down along there and turn it around, sew on the second side. This is the first step in this process. It's a lot of fun. You'll be really pleased to see how perky those geese get. Okay, now the line, the distance between one seam and the other is 1/2 inch. Check it, make sure you're good. Take your ruler and drop it right on that marked line, cut it in half, and this time turn it over. You have to have the large triangle on the top to make this work. So once you have the large triangle on the top, just set that seam, open, and press right in there. And it looks very strange. You're starting to wonder if you've never done this, how is this going to work? But it is perfect. So take the 2, drop one right side up, and take the second one and drop it right sides together to it, putting the green with the background. Match those two up. Don't even think about matching the seams. Match the outside edges, and they are oversized, so it's okay if they're not perfect. And then I just always check, make sure you look for the goose tails hanging out on both edges. One more diagonal line and we are good. Use the 45 along the edge again and just draw corner to corner. Get it all lined up. Same thing. Put your bar on the line, put your 1/4 inch edge on the line, and sew on both sides of the line. Well, when Sue and I were in Shipshewana, we did get to go on the barn trail, and it was a lot of fun. We were just driving around the countryside. It was like looking for Easter eggs on an egg hunt. We were thrilled when we spotted them in the distance. And besides getting to go on the barn trail, we went on a quilt shop hop and had just a great time shopping, enjoying the countryside. Now, take this one more time, cut it in half, and we are going to be ready to square these up. Now, you want to press the seams away from the green. To make that possible, just take your patch, fold it, line up the tips right here, and right here on the fold, take a clip. Just snip right in there. Fold this one in half as well, and take a snip right up to the stitches. Press it away from the green. And I do like a two-step process. Just hold it up so that you can take the tip of the green right in, go right into the green. And once one half is done, just turn it around and do the second side. So when you check it out on the back side, you see how those seams can be nicely pressed away. And if you look, make sure you don't have any folded parts over. So we actually would do the same thing with this one, but let me show you how to square it up. You take this ruler. Oops, where'd my ruler go? Grabbing the wrong one. This one that says 2 by 4, green lines, and those green lines go right into the green seams. This way, you have a perfect built-in 1/4 inch seam right there, and it goes right into the corners. Perfect. Hold it down flat. It helps if you put Invisigrip on the back side so it doesn't slide. Okay, I always separate so I don't cut the second one. And I have it on a small mat. I'm not even going to pick it up, but I am just going to continue to turn it around and trim off all 4 sides. Perfect. Look at that. And this is just extra. This is that little oversized, so you can get rid of it. Now to do this patch right here, all we need to do is have a piece that is exactly the same size. And if they match, you're doing good. So you're going to do 4 of these. Take your rectangle, put it on the bottom, put your geese on the top. You see the seam is going to put the greens together, the 2 greens together. So let's just get that lined up. A stiletto helps. Makes it so much easier to get these matched. And of course, when we were in Shipshewana, we visited with the Yoders. It's an Amish country, and enjoyed eating with the Yoders and having a great time. That's it for one part of the block. Now all I have to do is just press that seam towards the rectangle, and I'll get the 4 patch ready. We have the easiest part of the block left to do, the 4 patch. Now the yellow all gets turned into the inside, and there's just the yellow and the green and the 2 background. The strips are 2.5 inches wide. Flip them right sides together. Yellow on top, green on top, and then it's 1/4 inch seam right down both of them. Well, when I was in Shipshewana, I fell in love with a new dish for breakfast called baked oatmeal. It was just oatmeal with some egg and a little bit of milk, and oh my goodness, baked it in the oven like a casserole. I feel so fortunate. I found the recipe on the internet, and now I can make my own baked oatmeal. Well, that one was one of my favorites. Another one is shoe fly pie. Ooh, with just some molasses, it is perfect. And I'll never forget the first time I ate some of the Amish food. We couldn't figure out what that brown stuff was in the mashed potatoes. And all it was the skin. So I do it all the time now. It's perfect. This time, set with a background on the top. Just set the seam, move it along, and open and press into it. I'm setting this up so that every seam locks together, and we really worked to get this perfect. So this time, take and put the green on the bottom edge, take the yellow, put it right sides together to it and on the top, and then just lock those seams. When you run your hands along, if they're flat, they're locked. Well, my favorite tool to cut this into 2.5-inch strips is this one right here. Don't even have to mark. All it has is slots every 2.5 inches. So get it lined up with the edge. Put the 0 right here on the left. Put your cutter into the 0 and cut away. You don't even need to think. You can just quickly go right along there and cut 4 2.5-inch segments. It's done. So now just take these little pieces, get rid of them there. Just stack these up and assembly line sew them one after the other. Usually I like the seam going up. This time it's going down, but that's so everything matches. So just take your finger, your thumb, and roll them together, and they'll lock perfectly. So let's get this going. You know, of course, I love all of the Amish buggies riding around town with the little children, often peeking out the back end of the buggy, the horse and their click-clop as they go through town. So fun. And we ate in the restaurants with families. Oh my goodness, I never saw such well-behaved children. That was a delight, especially whenever you go into a restaurant some days and the children are just way rowdy. That's 4. Now we're going to put them on the pressing mat with the green on the top. Just drop them on there, set that seam all along there, open and press the seam so that it goes towards the green. Oh, look at that. It's a great match. Looking good. So now this is all of the pieces that are complete. One more. Just clip these apart and let's lay out the block. They look good. They're matched pretty well. Proud of it. So start out first with a 4.5-inch square right in the middle. Your geese go right off each one of those, like so. Looking good. Around. And when you place these, you always put the yellow right in the very corner. And the way they're all laid out, everything is going to lock together. From the wrong side, once you get the vertical row sewn and you go across, that last seam gets pressed away from the center. We were lucky. I hung up my sister Patty's quilt, Lavender Hill Farm, so you can see her interpretation of quatrefoil and cups and saucers. Well, Patty loves fussy cuts. So for her quatrefoil block, she fussy cut the center block with a large, beautiful rose and then smaller roses in the corners. Well, the block looks completely different in florals and prints. Well, she also fussy cut the center for cups and saucers. Well, the young lady is the serene keeper of the garden. Well, the center is surrounded by deep green geese and then softer prints of purple and green. You know, just changing the fabric gives your blocks a completely different look. Well, the cups and saucers block is predominantly displayed on the end gable of the barn owned by Ralph and Virginia Tree Carton in Kendall, New York. Well, when the Country Barn Quilt Trail was established in 2006, the participants were encouraged to select a quilt pattern with meaning. Well, the couple selected Cups and Saucers to honor Virginia's Australian mother, Elizabeth Schumacher. And here she is right here, very young. And later in this picture, Elizabeth Schumacher born, and her grandmother often shared tea in their native home. And then that beautiful bright yellow in the block is a loving tribute to her mother's sunny disposition. Isn't that great? I love that story. Well, we're starting off with geese again for the block. There's the same size of geese. Right here I have the ruler in place. We are making 2x4 finished geese in red with yellow and black with yellow, 2x4, and then for the 6-inch we're using the opposite end. So these little guys are just 1x2 right there. So one ruler will take care of both blocks. Now these pieces are 7-inch and 5.5-inch. I have the yellow on the back and black on the top, right sides together. I drew the diagonal line. For the second set, same thing. It is the yellow on the back, red on the top, diagonal line. Now, if you're just gonna do the 6-inch block, no worry, just use a 3.5-inch and 5-inch blocks, and you'll do exactly perfect. Well, now those little corners, we have 4 corners right here, along with the geese. These rectangles are 5 inches by 10 inches. I put that dark blue and the green right sides together. They're so dark. I was worried that I couldn't find a pen dark enough, but this will actually show just using with the black. I like to use a square up ruler. This is a 9.5-inch square up ruler, so that you just center 5 right on the edge. You have your center line at 5, and then you just pick up and turn the ruler. You don't even have to move it twice. Just zip up and down, and you've got your marking already done. Well, this is great for the 12-inch. The little guys for the 6-inch are only 3x6. So it's the same 1/4-inch seam. Got that 1/4-inch foot on. I'm ready to sew. So just drop that bar on the line, needle down, and you're only going to sew on those diagonal lines. So if you put your needle down when you get up to the top, you're going to stop right on that straight line, pivot on that line, and then just head right down the other side. And then once you've gone on one side of the diagonal line, just swing it around and start all over again. Put your bar on the line and stitch again. I love that 1/4-inch foot. You know, another thing that we did when we were in Shipshewana was go to the flea market. Oh my gosh, you could buy everything at the flea market. And we had a good time, Sue and I, when we stopped at the little booth where the vendor actually dressed up her geese. Very appropriate. Dressed up geese for this block, huh? Well, here I am standing beside the whole gander of them. Got a hat to wear that day, had my Quilt in a Day t-shirt on, and this is my favorite goose, just standing there as cute as can be. Well, I want to show you the block now. I've actually stitched 1/4 of an inch from each side of the line, 1/2 inch in between. Just take your ruler and cut it the same way as you marked it. Just start first with that line in the center, cut up, and then pick up your ruler. You can do this in just one swipe. Line it up so you've got the diagonal lines across and across. Now this time I square up before I press it open. I'm going to use the 6.5-inch triangle square up ruler. We need to square this patch to 4.5 inches. So you look on the ruler and find the 4.5-inch line. It's a red dash line, and you put that line on the stitches. That's the trickiest part. You put it on the stitches. There's about, say, not quite 1/8 of an inch, even less, hanging out on both sides. So just sliver trim that. Everything is oversized, so you cut it back to be the perfect size. And then I personally like to just turn it around and cut on the angle to just trim off those tips. That's all that we've got extra. And then this time, just take it to your iron, set that seam with the dark on top, and then open and press into it. Ooh, it is perfect. Looking good. Now you're going to do the exact same thing with the 6-inch blocks, only this time you're going to square these little guys to 2.5 inches. Perfect. Now we're going to get all 4 of these done. I'm so lucky I had some help. I'm ahead of the game. So let's start laying out the pieces. First, you're going to have a 4.5 inch center, and then let's just go ahead and get our geese. I love the frame that the black geese make. Put all the black around the outside edge, right around that square. And then when you take the half square triangles, you place them so that the navy is going out away from the center. Turn all of them around. Perfect. Easy to do. Now, when you sew the block together, you always do vertical rows, top to bottom. I chain piece because it's similar to pinning each piece. If you get it right when you chain piece, then you don't need to pin, and that's the best part. Now, I like to just go ahead and take these, stack them up so the top block is on the top. This is the way I'm going to sew. It's all lined up. You don't have to worry about a thing. So use that same 1/4 of an inch, line it up right there, and you don't have to match anything in between the top and the bottom, but it's best if you can keep the top and the bottom lined up perfectly. Use your stiletto, open that up, and once you have one set of blocks sewn, then you've got your order completely stacked and ready to go. Just pick up the next piece, line it up right behind. So I always sew all the vertical rows first, and then I don't clip the vertical rows apart. These are all chained together. It's just like pins. So you just lay it out, and you you flip the second row onto it like this. You open it up, 1, 2, 3, flip the third row onto the second row and sew right down. When you go across the other way, just remember to always press your seams away from the geese, away from the geese, away from the geese. And your block will lay nice and flat, go right into your quilt. Oh, perfect. This is my daughter-in-law, Teresa. Welcome.
Thank you.
And this is my 3rd grandchild, Kylie Marie. Now, Kylie's daddy is my son, Orion. How are you, sweetie? Well, I have a great story to tell you, Teresa. It's really fun. Well, Orion and I were sharing dinner with his half-brother, Chris, and they were talking about their dating experiences, and Orion had just met you, and he wanted to show you the house that he had grown up in. And so this is how he summed up the visit to Chris. He said, "You know, Chris, sometimes you meet a girl just like your mother." I said, "Oh?" And he said, "Yeah, Mom, she likes sock monkeys just like you do." And so I heard you do too, Kylie.
Kylie loves sock monkeys.
You love sock monkeys. Well, actually, Teresa, I think you and I are the keepers of the family's cups and saucers. That's the first thing you started sharing with me. So now you get to tell me the story about the chocolate tea set.
In my family, my grandmother passed on this chocolate tea set to me. It's passed on to each first granddaughter, and inside she puts the history of it for us.
That is great.
And it says that Mabel and Ida worked in Baltimore as dressmakers in 1809 or 1808. They would go into Canada and buy china. the town they went into was in the Turtle Mountains, and that's where this set came from.
That is great. And how did your family use the set?
Well, there's our family's lore about why it's called a chocolate tea set. We served chocolate milk in it because they told us that little kids couldn't have tea. But I have heard that it's called a chocolate tea set because it's about as useful as a chocolate teapot.
And this dish is special, so that's for the girls, and this will be handed down to Kylie, huh?
The chocolate tea set will be for Kylie, and this is a bowl that's passed down to each of the boys, the first boys, and it's an alphabet bowl, and this will be passed on to my brother, and it was done around the 19th century, and it's a Punch and Judy bowl with the alphabet around it, and this is how children learned the alphabet.
That's great. That is really cute. Well, I also have collected glassware in pink and green and amber. You know, actually, this one is my mom's, and so I really treasure it. I'm really fond of this one. But I gave you that book, and you studied up, and now you know the names of some of the patterns.
Yes.
So this particular little yellow one is called the
Basket.
Basket. It's so cool. Yes, I love that you love to go to antique stores. That's great. And this little one, this glass, this water glass, is
Bow knot.
Bow knots, and that's what's really fun. You can see the bow knots right along there. It's perfect. And this one I know is very popular. This
Hobnail.
Hobnail. This one is great. And this is actually from my father. When he had breakfast every morning, my mom would put a soft-boiled egg in here, and this is what he got for his breakfast. Too much fun. And this one I'm especially fond of because my grandfather and grandmother came from Germany, and my grandfather said that his sister worked in the factory and she painted all of the gold trim.
It's beautiful.
And what I'm most excited about is this is still not broken. That's so good. Well, may you too love and protect your family's cups and saucers. Just write down their stories and pass them on from one generation to the next.